Poole Truck Lines had a good long run in the trucking industry, starting after World War II. It also followed a pattern that so many other companies in the trucking world did in the era of heavy regulation. Hi, I'm Logan, the 64 the Gear Jammer Skeele, and this is another Fallen Flag edition of Toy Talk. If you like trucking fallen flags, subscribe as I keep making videos on them. Also, at the end of this video, watch my Fallen Flags playlist and grab my complete DCP by First Gear Fallen Flag Series checklist. Now, smash that like button and let's get on with Poole Truck Line. Walter Poole left the Merchant Marines at the end of World War II, like so many other men. When he returned to his hometown of Castleberry, Alabama, he had the intention of starting a transportation company. A common theme for men coming home after the war to build their future and keep their independence. Starting with one used tractor, Poole formed a friendship with an Evergreen, Alabama cotton broker by the name of Bob Kendall. One thing led to another, and in 1946, Walter formed Poole Truck Line. Back then, contracts were signed with a simple handshake. Bob Kendall and Walter Poole sealed their contract with a handshake, putting Poole in the business of hauling cotton. With this handshake, Walter hauled cotton from Evergreen, Alabama to Opelika for several years, establishing Poole Truck Line's commitment to customer service. Other demands were on Poole, so he added another driver, and another, and another, as the trucking business grew. It seems to me that almost all the truck lines that were owned by the originator remained somewhat profitable, even those that survived deregulation. But once the kids took over or the company was sold to private equity firms, down they fell. For 38 years, Walter Poole ran his company in an efficient and profitable manner with great customer loyalty. During his run, Poole built his truck line from one used tractor to 800 tractors and 1,500 trailers with an annual revenue of $75 million. I couldn't find out if or how deregulation of the trucking industry in 1980 affected Poole Truck Line. Jimmy Carter's deregulation so changed the trucking industry and the trucking landscape that it must have had some impact. But who knows what? Nevertheless, Walter Poole decided to sell his truck line in 1984. He sold it to International Utilities, which eventually sold out to Schneider National. That is how Schneider made the internal release of this Poole Truck Lines, DCP International Transtar II. Anyway, like all active men, Walter Poole wasn't ready for retirement. Trucking was his life. So, with his son, Patrick, Walter Poole started another truck line in 1988. Located in Evergreen, Alabama, Walter named his new company Evergreen Transportation. Walter Poole's reputation preceded him, and Evergreen Transportation built quickly. Old customers flocked back to his new company. Most returning customers came back because of his previous service and his reputation. Besides Poole Truck Line's reputation, one of the major contributors to Evergreen's rapid growth was its fleet diversification. Evergreen operated 5 fleet divisions: bulk, flatbed, van, solid waste, and liquid. The fleet divisions were operated in several cities in Alabama, Florida, and Georgia. Talk about a go-getter. Find out what happened to Walter and Evergreen after the review of the old DCP internal release of a Poole Truck Lines IH Transtar II. And here we go, folks. This is the 164 scale Diecast Promotions International CO 4070B Transtar II cab over engine tractor pulling a vintage 40-foot dry van trailer modeled after a Fruhoff trailer. Very common for back in the day. It was an internal release made by Schneider commemorating a fallen flag, Poole Truck Line, which they acquired when they bought the division off of Landstar. They made this model and had it only available to Schneider Company employees. A really, really nice piece, and nice of Schneider to commemorate the fallen flag that they had, especially since Poole was such a big truck line in the business. Now let's talk about the trailer first. This is their 40-foot vintage dry van trailer. It's based on a Fruhoff trailer with the nice detail on the side. They did the Poole truck line with the 3 bars. A really simple logo, but it really stands out at the same time. It's in a dark green, which goes with, kind of evergreen Alabama, with a black outline. Very common to have the black drop shadow back then. It has a placard right there for DOT. It also has the silver stripes across the bottom and a silver roof. Underneath, we have a black bottom, nice rubber tires with a good tread pattern on, working suspension. And they're also mounted on chrome 10-hole wheels. You've got right here, you've got a nice spare tire carrier with spare tire and landing gear here. The date of this is 3027. That's how old this thing is. Wow, this is an old tooling. And then you have a kingpin for anybody with straight kingpins that'll hitch up to their trucks. Advantage Diecast Promotions, and First Gear. Go over here to the curbside. Same beautiful graphics. The placard there, and that's all the same. Round towards the back, we have Poole Truck Line, Evergreen, Alabama on the doors, and a trailer number of 5241. It's also a nice DOT placard there, and then brake and turn signals tampoed. But note, there's no upper lights on this trailer. The doors do open to reveal the all wooden interior. Wooden interiors were very common back then, and most of them did. And most of these trailers back then had the wooden interiors, where today they're kind of going with more of the fiberglass and the aluminum on the inside. Not really sure why. The cam locks and the hinges are tampoed over in silver. Now we go up to the front, and you've got the trailer number again on each corner so the driver can see it while he's driving by the lineup of trailers. 5241, and then we got the trucking company name, Poole Truck Line. I actually like how they did this when they pushed the letters together. That makes a really cool logo, putting the T through the Poole. It's also got a nice placard there, which I'm not really sure why you would ever have a placard on the front of a trailer. Don't know. Battery boxes and the airlines and electric lines for your hookups. Battery box is not necessary since it is a dry van trailer, but they put them on there anyway. Now we'll drop the landing gear so we can set the trailer aside and then look at the tractor. Remember, these toolings are way old. They go way back. 3027, that'd be 2007 is when they made this truck. The 302nd day of 2007. So that tells you this is an old model. And that's back to about the beginning of the Transtar II and this vintage trailer, which it was made to go specifically with this cab because they didn't have any other vintage trailers at the time when they started this line. They even made really cool brown boxes of the vintage truck line. Wish they had kept that up instead of just, going with the boring black boxes they had today. These brown ones
really nice. And this is that International 4070B Transtar II, the CO 4070B. It was the replacement for the Transtar, and what they did for that is they raised the cab up to put a bigger engine underneath and a bigger radiator. It has no side windows, but it does have hard plastic clear front windows, chrome mirrors, chrome on the air and horns, and it has chrome air intake and chrome exhaust stack, chrome fuel tanks, and let's see, chrome deck plates. The brackets that hold up the exhaust are also in chrome. It's a shame that DCP only ever made the single stack option for this truck. And I'll give them, almost all of the Transtar 2s were single stacked. But there were twin stacks, and it would have been really cool if they'd tooled up the twin stack. Also be nice if maybe First Gear would tool up the twin stack for this cab to update it just a little bit and give us another option. Single stack with the air cleaner intake on the outside, just like the real ones. Very classic. Brake lights tampoed red. Hard ABS plastic mud flaps with DOT striping tampoed on them. Airlines and brake lines are also there. Underneath, we have the bottom of the engine and transmission detail, blue for the engine for a Detroit, and gray for the transmission. Drive shafts, air brake canisters, working suspension. It is set up as a spring suspension all around, and then it has spring on the front with positionable steering. Not true steering, it is positionable, which is just fine. You have your battery box step and a little air tank there, also an air tank underneath right there by the fuel tanks. You have the Transtar 2 tampo right there, a little turn signal, an IH logo, and then you have your turn signal there painted in clear Tamiya on clear plastic. Then you have Poole truck line, Evergreen, Alabama. Door handle and the vent are tampoed in silver. Now, the one thing I never really particularly liked about this is these wire loop. I think they just look too big on this truck. I kind of wish they'd gone with just plastic chrome instead of the real wires. But they're trying to make them thinner and like the real ones, but I think they still failed. Could have been better. Round on the front, we have the truck number of 1298. Those clear ABS plastic windows showing off the detailed interior of a gray dashboard, gray seats, gray bunk. There's actually a bunk in the back, and it has a nice little steering wheel there. There's a vent here that's closed. Actually, it's not really a vent. It's the door so you can get in and fill the radiator. You have vents over here that are tampoed in black. You can see those two clear Tamiya turn signals. There's also individual jewel style headlights with chrome bezels. Chrome bumper with little marker or driving lights that are painted, that aren't painted, they just left them chrome. Then you have the two-piece chrome grille. And they did the two-piece grille because when you tip the cab, which on this truck it does tip, but it is hard, you can see the upper piece of the grille tips with the cab and the lower piece stays with the truck. You have a visor up here that's painted white. Roof lights are molded into the cab, and they painted the back part silver and the front for the lenses orange. Really nice. Then we go over here to the passenger side. You got your air intake here coming down, and then it goes into the air cleaner right there. Step, a little loop steps hanging under there, and there. You also got your Transtar 2 at the IH logo. They went with the IH logo on this because the Transtar 2 was an IH. It was before they changed over. The Transtar was canceled before Navistar bought them and just made it international. However, on the front, they wrote out the words international rather than putting the IH logo like they did on all of the trucks back then. Poole truck line right there, Evergreen, Alabama on the door. Under the hood, V8 Detroit. It's the only Detroit engine that they've actually ever done. It is a V8 with the supercharger on top. And then you can see the piping for the exhaust coming around and the air intake. GM's Detroit engines were notoriously loud. They were nicknamed the Screamin' Jimmies. And because they were supercharged and two-strokers. They were loud engines. If you didn't like two-strokes or didn't know how to drive them, they were not great engines. But if you did, they really put some power down. And this is the only tooling that DCP ever did that had a Detroit engine in it. And they painted them other colors to make them look like other engines, but they've always been Detroits because Detroit was so big on superchargers instead of turbochargers. And that kind of makes this cab unique. I don't know why they never put another Detroit in anything else, but they just, this one. Now let's close them back up and hitch the truck and trailer so that we can look at them all together. To do that, we got to put this landing gear down. And man, guys, it's amazing that DCP back then made such a great model. In fact, I think this is better than some of the stuff they made today. It's the actual true 8-foot width instead of 8'6", like all the newer vintage trucks are, because they kind of make them to fit. But back when this truck came out, 8 foot was the max width instead of 8'6" like today. So this truck does look smaller than your modern, most of your other toolings, but in real life it would be. And that, my friends, is the Diecast Promotions 1/64 scale International 4070B Transtar II cab over engine tractor pulling a vintage Fruhoff trailer for Poole truck line. It was an internal release made by Schneider to commemorate the fallen flag of Poole truck line, which they had acquired, and they were only available to Schneider employees.
After 6 years of successful operation as a family business, the Poole family decided to sell the business. By then, Evergreen Transportation had been built up with 400 tractors and 800 trailers. In 1994, Evergreen was sold to Marquise Holdings, LLC, a Virginia-based private equity firm. Walter and Patrick Poole continued on to run Evergreen Transportation in the same manner as before. In 2005, Patrick retired, and in 2008, Walter retired, ending the Poole family control of the company. Remember what I said before about companies remaining profitable until the kids or private equity firms took over? Well, the family was out in September of 2008, and by April of 2009, Evergreen Transportation was on the rocks and sinking so fast that Marquise Holdings contacted Walter Poole to try and sell the company back. Since Walter was finding his second retirement pretty boring, he jumped at the chance and bought the assets back and formed his third go-around in trucking, Evergreen Transport, LLC, in January of 2010. This purchase saved the jobs of most of Evergreen's employees and put the company back on its feet, and it is still running on the highways today. Poole Truck Line may have passed into the history books of the highways, but the legacy of Walter Poole continues on today. Thanks for watching. Please go on and grab my free checklist on the DCP by First Gear's Fallen Flags series of trucks with the link down below. And don't forget to like this video, share it with your followers, and subscribe to my channel for more videos on the history of trucking.